Well, hello and welcome again to the Burgess Salmon stage. I'm Chris Jackson from the Civil Engineering Contractors Association, and it's my job to introduce the speakers. And I'm delighted to say that for the penultimate session this afternoon, we have Tony Slater, the Smart Motorway Director for Balfour Beatty, and he's going to talk to us on the road to customer satisfaction. Tony.
Good afternoon. My presentation is split into two halves really. One is to look at the customer and trying to define what the customer is and what we need to focus on. And secondly is to look at what we should be doing anyway that does improve the experience for the customer. What I will say is there's no silver bullet to this, so there's no great big summary I can give you that you can take away and go, if we do this, we'll solve the customer's experience with us and make it better. But there's some ideas in here that should provide some fuel for thought and to take back. So what we've done, and it's useful to consider, is the customer in five separate work streams. And if you do that, you've got a broader context to consider what and who the customers are, and not for it just to be a very narrow band of people looking at what and who the customer is and how you solve and how you improve their experience whilst we design, build and construct something for them. So just looking at these in a little bit of detail, there is some overlap, but customer relationship and advocacy, the experience of the customers during construction, during the roadworks, getting customers' needs embedded in the design early enough, what we leave behind, the customer legacy, and that's physical and emotional, and digitising the customer, so making it easy and making it slick to consider the customer as we go through as we go through building our relationship with them. Balfour Beatty and Atkins have worked together and developed a process that binds this together, and it's a process called My Road. It's something we're in the process of rolling out through our regional development programme and hopefully through our wider smart motorway works. And so, and for each of those 5 work streams, what spins out of that is a series of actions and next steps for each of them, and they will deliver an outcome, a positive improvement, an outcome that benefits the customer. So thinking of probably the most significant for people in the audience and people looking at is the experience through the roadworks. That's what people tend to think about when we look at construction of a highway scheme. So what's the feel, what's the relationship we have during that phase? That's probably the most significant bit to look at in isolation. So we can consider a number of principles around traffic management. It's considering the number of closures that we need, managing diversions correctly, length of roadworks, speed is very topical now through roadworks, signage, how do we improve signage, what are the diversionary routes, how do we get live information back to the customer. There's a whole myriad of activity and action in there that we can improve the customer journey. And all the way down through really, so whether it's embedding the customer in design, which I'll cover in the next couple of slides, through to the legacy. And I said the legacy isn't just physical, isn't just what we build and what we leave behind, the infrastructure that we build, the piece of tarmac that's left. It's what's around it, and it's what emotional baggage do we leave behind, and how do we make that positive? How do we make the people that are neighbouring the scheme, how can we make their experience better during and following construction? Embedding the customer in design is an area which I will say I will cover later, but that's something that the industry doesn't really manage, and civil engineering, highways bit of civil engineering, is just as bad as every other aspect of civil engineering in my view, and it's something to really think about. The way to collect and measure how are we improving and are we improving is to look at our maturity. So what is our customer service? So if we consider civil engineering as a customer service industry, whether that's retail, flying, train travel, think of it something differently. So they would manage the customer experience far different and at far greater depth than we would and than we do. So if we think of that, what those industries do and those bits of retail travel they focus on is this maturity model. So how mature is the relationship we have with our customer at all aspects? So if we measure a whole suite of our performance and our success or not of the customer experience, we can develop a maturity model, and then we can see how that's going. We can track that. We can benchmark that from project to project, from company to company, division to division. So you can start to get some real intel, and from that you can share best practice. You can share information. You can share what and how you're doing, and generally improve the whole experience. So UCD stands for user-centered design. So this is very straightforward in concept, but perhaps new to engineers. So when you look at the various customers, so the wiggly lines represent three customers: freight, commuter, and a leisure driver, and that's during phases of their experience through and post a high waste project, and some of the emotions that they'll go through and their physical state as they transverse through that journey. If we can consider that that's potentially how they're feeling, we can start to include that feeling in the design and start to design for that eventuality and start to improve that, so they come away with a far more positive experience all through the journey. So it isn't just about what the physical needs are, it's the emotional need. So what is the emotional need of the user and all the different users as we go through design? That's what user-centered design principles are, and that's an example of how it can be developed through highways. People in highways will be very familiar with the PCF stages. So this is just a gated life cycle process of taking a project from inception through to commissioning and handover. And you can consider the user-centered design concept through the PCF stages. And the whole ethos of showing this slide really is to look at the collection of ticks on the left. So this is this left shift in design. So this is moving design left, inputting all the needs and all the considerations early, so we can get the consideration through the following stages. Once you start building, you're tied into a lot of things. The designs should be finished. They should be implemented. Then it becomes a whole different set of management actions to manage that customer experience and that customer journey. Second part of the presentation is trying to think about, well, we should be doing some good stuff anyway. We should be trying to improve customer experience in what is the more traditional element of what we do. Yes, there's a whole focus on the customer to consider and something to really focus on, but actually there's a whole suite of other actions that we do that do impact the customer, and we can improve if we focus. So within Balfour Beatty, we have a target to reduce on-site construction activity by 25% by 2025. 25 by 2025, very simple, high-level goal. And the three pillars on the left, zero waste, the way we work, and industrialised construction, they will deliver reduced on-site activity, but they will deliver a positive benefit. So yes, we've got the customer to consider as a topic, if you like, but equally there's some focus areas that we can do and we can focus on which are more traditional, which will deliver benefit. So if we look at zero waste is about removing not just physical waste through construction, it's about time waste, it's process improvement, it's making things slicker, quicker, so we can refine process, ultimately become faster, will become less expensive. We should improve safety by taking people away off-site, taking activity off-site. Industrialised construction takes people off, reduces the time we need to have temporary traffic management and or closures on for. And value. So we're all taxpayers, well, most of us probably are, but we all expect value as a customer. We are a customer of ourselves in providing a physical product, and we expect value for money. So my expectation is no different than anybody else's. We want that to be something that's value for money, and something that people are not constantly seeing as waste or is something that's is expensive and or overrunning. A bit more detail in each of these pillars, just to give you some ideas. So I touched on efficiency improvement. So within zero waste, it's being lean. It's applying lean efficiencies through our project life cycle. looking at hackathons to look at what areas of waste and engineer processes down and look at refining our systems. And it's to use other industry really, other industry to bring in those skills. So Six Sigma is not something that's traditional in civil engineering. We can bring it in. It's a great tool that we can use and build on. The way we work isn't just about reducing by being very innovative and very different. It's about standardising. I heard Leslie before touch on standardised construction. It's a great concept. It's a great time saver, a great benefit to everybody if we can standardise a lot of the way we build. Making things less bespoke. It's more common. Something we're doing very much in our regional development programme in our smart motorways currently is to try and standardise as much of what we do as we can. Projects start and finish all the time. Believe it or not, everyone probably starts very differently than every other one. So if we can standardise the way we do that and have a toolkit that allows a project to start and finish the same way, it's standard, it'll be quicker, it'll be cheaper, it'll be safer. And I can't tell you how many times that if we at least shared what we did as an industry with each other, we would have a best practice. We do not share company to company, project to project very well, and it's a real blocker. So if we can open up that communication and share what's good on one project to another and one business to another, the whole thing will be better. Very simple really, very simple concept. Industrialised construction, taking things off-site, making things more designed for manufacturing. A lot we can do, there's a lot we can't do, but there's a lot we can, and we need to look at the areas where are possible. What can we do, then move in those areas, not focus on what is too difficult. Laying blacktop will never be an off-site construction method, so why waste time thinking about it? Think of areas where we can bring in off-site manufacture. And showcasing these, show people that we can do it. We are pretty bad actually at showing where we do and where we can improve and what we have done. And this slide really is to summarise a couple of things. So, doing what we do isn't big, sexy and innovative. Some of it is just being quite basic and quite straightforward, and there's some examples there of some standardised construction methods which have got very innovative solutions in their own right. A lot of effort's gone into producing those, but when you consider them individually, it's not big and sexy and shiny, but individually they provide huge benefit to the construction out on site. So I'll kind of summarise really. So the journey for me in improving the customer experience with us is one, to consider the customer and acknowledge that they are there. And that customer is actually a variety of things. It's the road user, it's the neighbour, it's your client, it's your local authority. It's a whole gambit of what that customer is. And consider them all stages through the project life cycle. And there's some tools which I've just showed on there which allow you to do that and can be built on to provide something specific to everybody who's looking to do it. The next part of it is let's do what we do better, which is our 25 by 2025 concept really. It's not that stretching to try and do what we do now, do it better, industrialised construction, reduce waste, make our processes more efficient. It's not innovative really, it's just what we should do. And finally, it isn't, back onto this slide again, it's not just a focus on the big stuff. It's very tiny increments and very small improvements will improve significantly the customer experience with us. And thanks for your time for listening. Thank you.